The Ad hoc Committee on Gang Violence and Youth Development will now come to order. If you wish to address this committee, we have public comment cards that you can fill out at the back of the room and give to the clerk to my left. And you can speak to a specific item, or we will, at the end of the items on the agenda, we will have a general public comment opportunity for general public comment. With that, I'll announce that item number 1 will be put over for a subsequent meeting, possibly in 2 weeks. And we have 4 other items on the agenda, and we'll go in the order that they're listed. We'll now move to item number 2.
Item number 2, continued from May 29, 2008, communication from the mayor and city administrative officer relative to extending the grant period for the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance, Fiscal Year 2006 Congressional Mandated Grant Award 2006-DD-BX-0352 in connection with the development of a new gang reduction and youth development zone in Baldwin Village and related matters.
Morning.
Good morning. Melissa Fleming with the CAO. As just stated, the mayor's office is requesting authority to extend the grant period of their award. The award's $987,000 and $228 to fund the Gang Reduction Youth Development Zone in Baldwin Village. We recommend authorizing a grant extension through June 30th, 2009, authorizing the mayor's office to to execute a professional services agreement with the county, and to instruct this office to include continuing resolution authority for a Detective 2 and a Sergeant 2 within the LAPD for the next fiscal year. When we heard this item last week, you requested a report back regarding the history and potential continuation for the source of funding. This particular award was a congressional earmark originally sponsored by Senator Feinstein. Through the efforts of the mayor's office, the city continues to receive earmark awards. In fiscal year 2008, 4 separate earmarks for the gang reduction youth development zones were received for a total of approximately $1.9 million. These awards are provided by the Office of Justice Programs through the Byrne Grant Program and the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Grant Programs, and were sponsored by 4 different members of Congress, including Representatives Berman, Roybal Allard, Schiff, and Senator Feinstein.
So they're all LA or California congressional members or U.S. senators. That's good. Hopefully that's good for us. Now, when it comes to this particular gang reduction zone, or GRYD as we call them now, how much of the general fund budget for 2008-2009 is budgeted for this particular zone? Who can speak to the combination of the effort that's going to go on in Baldwin Village? Is anybody here? Never mind, that question's not for you. Okay. Now,
Are you talking about that from the police perspective on asking how it's going to operate, or?
No, not necessarily. I wanted to reconfirm what the overall budget is, all told, which would cover suppression, intervention, prevention, and other services. Hi.
Councilman, excuse me for being late.
Could you help us understand, please, what the how much general fund of the 08-09 budget will be going into this particular zone?
Are you referring to item number 1 on the agenda?
No, item number 2. Item number 1 will be put over for 2 weeks. There's some some of the people that were going to come in and speak are in a different meeting today.
So you're
On item number 2, we're talking about the Baldwin Village Gang Reduction Youth Development Zone.
Yes.
And the item on the agenda has to do with the grant, but overall, I wanted to, since we're on the subject of the participation of the grant in the Baldwin Village Gang Reduction Youth Development Zone, I wanted to reconfirm what the total commitment is of resources to fortify this zone with all of the aspects that the mayor's office anticipates to implement.
Sure. So your question was in regards to the general fund.
How much of the general fund dollars attributing to these matters is going to go to this particular zone?
There, included in the narrative, there is a description of some general funds that will be used for some of the positions. And take, for example, the Deputy City Attorney 2 position. There is grant funding for $110,500 for that position, but there is some additional salary expenses and fringe that are indicated. $64,458 in salary expenses and $61,830 in fringe, and it's indicated that that is in the mayor's 08 and 09 proposed budget.
Okay. All right. Because what we've been hearing or discussing in the committee when it comes to the gang reduction zones is the overall envelope of X amount of dollars for suppression, X amount of dollars for intervention, X amount of dollars for prevention, intervention, and suppression, and then wraparound services, et cetera. But what we need to start understanding how that breakdown is going to be a deeper breakdown into how that is going to be broken down.
Sure. And in addition, the program managers for the grid zones, there is funding of $75,000 from this grant, the Baldwin Village SWAP grant, but there is an additional $33,263 in salary expenses and $46,726 in fringe benefits that will be required for the general fund to fully support this position. And that is also indicated that it is in the 08-09 mayor's proposed budget.
So that's general fund?
That is general fund, and I'm sure the CEO has indicated that there is that in the fiscal impact statement as well. So it's also referred to in that portion.
Okay. Once again, can you give us the breakdown for the Baldwin Village Gang Reduction Zone, what the gross breakdown is going to be categorically for intervention, prevention, suppression?
In terms of the suppression component, the CLEAR program funds, as you know, the city attorney salaries, and, well, let me back up. The total grant is for $987,288.
Yes.
And the breakdown is city attorney salaries, $110,500, and for the additional suppression component, that's indicated in the contractual services.
So the $721,768 is suppression?
No, actually, only a portion of that is for suppression. As indicated in the recommendations, the PSA that we are executing with the County of Los Angeles will provide for the probation and DA services, and that's for an amount of $236,768. So the remainder of that will go for the community-based organizations, social services, prevention, intervention component.
Okay, so just shy of 500,000.
Exactly.
Okay. Now,
in terms of the mayor's salaries, that's indicated in the budget, and indirect costs, $75,000 is for the program managers that are in the grid office, indirect costs of $60,000 for fringe, and actually
33 for fringe or 60 something?
60,000 is my understanding of that.
And there's one program manager per zone?
Correct.
Okay.
Their travel and training for conferences on crime prevention, prevention intervention, that's included in there, supplies, office equipment, those types of things. And then operating costs for the Homeland Security and Public Safety Office, we're taking a 0.5 percentage for the administration of these funds. So that would be $5,850.
Now, the program manager for this particular zone, is that position filled?
as indicated in the narrative, that position is filled, and Mildred Martinez from the Grid office can elaborate.
Good morning, Councilman. Mildred Lopez with the Mayor's Office of Gang Reduction Youth Development. We actually do have a position filled for the Baldwin Village Grid Zone currently.
Okay. And so come July 1st, it'll remain that way?
Correct.
Right? Okay. So that position's filled and going forward?
Correct.
Okay. All right. All right. CEO already answered my question about Congress. And there's no reason to believe that they're changing their policy in Washington, Feinstein and the rest of the congressional members? Again, I said no reason to believe.
Right.
There's no indicators that we're aware of.
That's
right?
correct. I mean,
Obviously,
obviously,
they
earmarks
can-
as a source of funding and grant funding in general is dependent on the priorities of Congress and the next administration. There's always the potential, but there's no sign.
But none of these members that we're aware of have made any announcements that they're changing course or
Correct.
they believe that it wasn't working, so they're going to do something different or what have you. So as far as we can
We have
tell.
no indication of that.
Okay, so as far as we can tell, this hopefully will continue.
Correct.
And Washington does their budgeting, when do they finalize their budget? My understanding is October.
I believe so.
Okay. So the city finalizes their budget in May. The state finalizes their budget sometime in the summer, hardly ever on time. It's supposed to be July 1st, and then Washington, their schedule is for October. Okay. I guess we just have to wait. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Anything else anybody like to add on item number 2? Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak to item number 2? Item number 2, public comment is now open. Seeing and hearing no public comment for item number 2. Public comment for item number 2 is now closed. With that, be a recommendation of the chair to approve the CAO report. We now move to item number 3.
Item number 3, communication from the mayor relative to the notification of application and request for authority to accept grant award for fiscal year 2007, Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant, related matters.
Good morning, Councilman. This is Laura Shin from the Mayor's Office again. I think there was a little mix-up, I guess, in the City Clerk's office for that item, and we were actually coming to speak on the BJA Targeting Violent Crime Initiative Grant for the 77th, and I thought that we were going to be speaking on that item because this JAG 07 item has not, the CAO's report has not been released on this. So I think there was just a clerical error, and I'm not sure how to proceed at this point if has not been.
Is there a timing matter if we were to put this over for 2 weeks for that report? Anything interfering on your end?
It would be beneficial if we could get the authorities to contract with the county and, well, the projected date for the CBO contracts also is July, so
Okay.
the sooner we have the authorities
When
to
are we
execute
meeting next week?
those.
Okay, 1 week. What we'll do is we can have that item on the committee next week, and then we'll put a placeholder on the council already, so that within 24 hours of having that meeting, we should be able to take it to council and then hear it on the council floor.
Great, thank you very much.
So next week, okay? Thank you. So technically, we're putting item 3 over, or since it didn't exactly address the issue that we anticipated?
You can continue it for 1 week, I think, pending the release of a report from the city administrative officer.
Okay, is there any amending language we need to put it over?
Not at this time, just continue it for 1 week.
Okay, we'll continue this for 1
For the
week.
JAG or for the,
Yes,
continue
that's
the JAG?
point.
The item that's before the committee today is the only item that we could act on at this time, is my understanding.
but I would like to ask the CAOs about their projected date for the release of that
Okay.
report, because that might.
Is anybody here from the CEO's office who can speak to that? Come forward, please. To the microphone.
Camilla Fong, Office of the CAO. The CAO anticipates completing their report on the matter in 2 weeks. So
In 2 weeks?
we just got the
JAG 07.
Okay. Is there anything that would preclude you from having the report ready next week? Because according to the mayor's office, they would like us to legislatively deal with this matter next
Well,
week.
actually,
rather
no, that was for the TVCI, the BJA Targeting Violent Crime Initiative Grant, which
Okay.
we do have a CAO's report on. So that,
We can-
the item that was scheduled for today was the incorrect grant, and that just happened due to some clerical error.
And there's no timing matter on that grant?
Well, I mean, it affects the same community-based organizations, but we sent over the TVCI grant first, so that report was completed, and the next report pending is the JAG.
Okay, so we'll schedule that matter as a whole next week. We'll see what we can address next week, and then if necessary, we'll bifurcate the matter and then send one to council and the other one put over for another week.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay. This item will be put over. With that, we now move, I'm sorry, was anybody here to speak on item number 3 before we put this item over? I don't see any public comment cards on item number 3. Public comment on item number 3 is now open. Seeing and hearing no public comment on item number 3, public comment on item number 3 is now closed. With that, we'll put that item over and we'll move to item number 4.
Item number 4, Board of Police Commissioners and CAO reports relative to supplemental funding for the 2007-2008 award of funding for the 2008-09 Juvenile Justice Crime Prevention Act program, authorization to accept said funding and related matters.
Okay.
Good morning, Melissa Fleming with CAO. The Police Department's requesting authority to accept a 2007-08 supplemental award and a 2008-09 grant award from the Los Angeles County Probation Department for the Juvenile Justice Crime Prevention Act program. The $200,000 in supplemental grant funding for the JJCPAs for the period of July 1st, 2007 through December 31st, 2008, and will be used for sworn overtime. The 2008-09 award total is $428,125 for the period of July 1st, 2008 through June 30th, 2009. It will be used for sworn and civilian overtime as well as equipment in support of the Explorer program.
Okay. Now, can you describe for us what the parameters of this $200,000 can be used for? Does it have to be used for law enforcement, or is it broader than that as to our interpretation as to what we can use it for?
Maybe someone from the police department can elaborate a little more on that, but I can say that the award is intended for the provision of enhanced law enforcement services during the summer and early fall months for youth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Wanda Bell, LAPD. No, the supplemental award is strictly for sworn overtime for safe passage during the summer months.
Now, that is what we have expressed to the county that we're going to use it for, or is that what the county delineated before we accepted responsibility?
That's what the county delineated before
Okay, so
we...
they're putting this money out specifically for overtime?
Yes,
Okay, so it's a strict use?
Yes.
It's not public safety in general, it's law enforcement overtime?
yes, it is.
Okay. Do you understand, do you know what the source of this funding is?
It's a pass-through from the state.
A pass-through from the state? And
The county receives funding from the state of California.
in what category? What do they call that funding from the state?
That I don't know. I don't know where the county gets their funding from, but it's money that they get from the state of California.
So it possibly could be COPS money, because the state funds about $100 million a year in COPS funds.
I don't know, it could be. I don't know where they get their source. I don't know what their source of funding from the state of California is for the county.
Okay. Let me, let's run through a little exercise so that you could please report, you don't have to report back to this committee, but if you could report back to my office, please, on where the source of this particular funds comes from. Sure. Was it a legislative source? Was it a department source within their state department budget? Is this a pass-through from the counties, meaning that the county actually receives these funds, or if the county is administering the distribution of these funds directly from the state? For example, When I was a state legislator, I created, I was, with my colleagues in the Senate, Adam Schiff, we created the Schiff-Cardenas Act. The Schiff-Cardenas money is supposed to go through the county, what do they call that? The county, where the chairman person is the chief probation officer?
Juvenile Justice Coordinating.
Yeah, Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council. And that legislation was created 8 years ago. In dialoguing with various individuals, both third-party providers and the city of Los Angeles, they've been misinformed in that people have come to the assumption, the wrong assumption, that that money is actually county probation money, that people have to ask permission of the county probation department if they can participate in those funds. That is not the case. I wrote the law. That is state funds that together collectively, the various organizations and the various cities and municipalities work together through a process of the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council to apply directly for those funds to the state of California. And as a result of that misunderstanding, the county is now receiving the lion's share of that money without objection to the other organizations and cities within the county, because they're assuming that whatever little bit they get is fine with them because it's really county money. And it's a privilege or it's a plus in order to receive those funds. That's not the case. I wrote the law. I put it in the state budget. Yet, everybody downline is assuming that that's county funding. It's not county funding, it's state funding, not to be controlled by the county, county by county by county. And in the county of Los Angeles, it is the sheriffs and the probation department and the DA collectively that is getting the lion's share of that money. Now, on a per capita basis, the city of Los Angeles, being that we're 4 million of approximately 10 million people in this county, the county is actually receiving approximately $28 to $30 million in any given year of that money. That means that the city of Los Angeles should be getting upwards of $10 million a year, being able to directly utilize those funds. And by my guesstimation, the city of Los Angeles has direct utilization of those funds, and third-party providers within the city of Los Angeles are only receiving about $3 million in funds. Now, $3 million sounds like a lot of money if you're just sitting there waiting for the crumbs to fall from the table, saying that that is not our table. But the author of that legislation didn't say that that's the county table. It is the entire community at the table. So that's why it's important for us to understand what is the source of these funds. Are they county funds or are they state funds? Is this a pass-through, or is this money that comes to the county and the county controls it, and then they disseminate the funds? So that's why it's important for us to understand that.
Okay.
And in our ignorance, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, in our ignorance, we, depending on what our understanding is, true or false, then we make certain assumptions and we're willing to accept, unfortunately in some cases, less than what we rightfully should be receiving and or demanding. Okay, so the source of those funds is very, very important to me.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope.
No? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody here to speak on item number 4? Item number 4 is now before us. I do not see any public comment cards before me on item number 4. Is anybody here to speak to item number 4 from the public? Seeing and hearing none. Item number 4, public comment, is now closed. With that, we will, that'll be a recommendation of the chair to approve the CAO report. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the item before us is now item number 5.
Item number 5, communication from the mayor and CAO, report relative to the 2008-09 Memorandum of Understanding between the Department of Recreation and Parks and Los Angeles County Probation Department relative to the after-school enrichment and supervision program and related matters.
Good morning, Veronica Salumbidas with the Office of the CAO. The Department of Recreation and Parks is proposing to enter into a one-year MOU with the Los Angeles County Probation Department beginning July 1st, 2008 through June 30, 2009. The proposed MOU will provide approximately $549,000 for the department's after-school enrichment and supervision program. The department will use the grant funds to implement the ACES program next fiscal year. There are 4 categories: camp counselor leadership training, sports officiating, theater arts, and film production. In addition to the 4, the department is also proposing to offer crime scene investigation and animal care internship categories. 2 council actions are required at this time. First, the CAO recommends that the council authorize the department to accept the 08-09 grant funds from the LA County Probation Department. And secondly, the CAO recommends that the council approve and authorize the president and secretary of the Board of Recreation and Park Commissioners to execute the proposed MOU with the LA County Probation for 08-09. There is no fiscal impact. These recommendations are in compliance with the city's financial policies, and that one-time revenues are to be used for one-time expenditures.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, still morning.
Good
Sorry.
morning.
Good morning. Okay, as you just heard, me instruct the police department to give us some feedback on the source of these funds. Does anybody know the origin of these funds?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you please explain?
Ann Vollmer, Recreation and Parks. The source of these funds is Schiff Cardenas bill and the Juvenile Justice Crime Prevention Act. And Class Parks and LA Recreation and Parks has been a part of that for the entire 8 years that the city's been participating. So we well know the spirit that was put in.
Now, if I'm reading my notes correctly, it says the Department of Recreation and Parks requests authority to enter into an MOU with the Los Angeles County Probation Department to accept the funds. Why do you need to enter into an MOU? Are there probation officers involved in this?
Yes, there's a listing of responsibilities. Probation has certain responsibilities towards this program.
For example?
Referring youth to our program. The specific after-school program that this provides for is the high school age beginning internship in these programs. So we give a priority to the youth that are on probation. Probation officers refer the kids, they follow up on the youth, they help us market to the high schools. So they have a list of requirements. We give them certain data and they process it. So the MOU states Rec and Parks responsibilities in providing not only the internship but the life skills work. You know, so there's very specific things that we do and very specific things they do to make this such a successful program.
Who else is able to refer individuals to you that you put on a priority list like you do with the probation referrals?
Well, a lot of the community-based organizations, Carl Cooper from Recreation and Parks, are very active members in San Fernando Valley Coalition on Gangs. And so at that monthly meeting, we meet with all those community-based organizations and go over the different types of programs. So we get a lot of youth from those organizations. We meet with the LAUSD high school counselors and get referrals for those youth.
Yeah, but
Well-
you don't have an MOU with them like you do with county probation. So if you have 100 kids referred to you, but you have 20 slots, and you have 100 people referred to you, you have 20 slots, and you get 25 referrals from county probation, who's going to get placed first by your MOU?
It's not addressed in the MOU.
It's not?
It's not a mandate, I don't believe so. And that hasn't been an issue because typically we have 150 slots a session. And this last year we've gotten a lot more probation, but we haven't had the kids flowing out of the woodwork from probation. It's a lot more community kids.
So what's the essence of the MOU with county probation? just the authority to receive these funds and administer them?
And from our understanding, that is it. I mean, it's how it's been written up since the beginning of the program, and we are not sure why they wrote it up as a MOU, but I know part of the language.
So technically speaking, I would imagine that the state of California is assuming that this particular program is a county program, not a city of Los Angeles Parks program.
And you know what? I really don't know that, but I mean, the assumption could be made. And part of our funding and how we get our money is it's reimbursed from the county. So I think part of the MOU talks about how we are reimbursed quarterly or monthly, on what we spend. So that's part of that MOU, and it could.
Everything's reported as city program.
Yeah.
In all the funding
But
documents.
you're reporting to the county, not directly to the state?
No.
Correct. The only mechanism 8 years ago, which is prior to our time, was that this is the mechanism to get the money from the state via the county.
And we are a non-voting member of that board.
As in Recreation and Parks? How many voting members of that board are in the city of Los
I
Angeles?
think it's the mayor's office and the
Police
LAPD.
department gets to vote.
Okay. Now, you said 150 youth you anticipate to serve this summer?
Summer, we normally,
Roughly, but
yeah, that's about right.
yeah.
Okay. But I'm sorry, I'm assuming that's your peak time.
Not really. Actually, year-round,
Year-round?
those numbers are about the same, because it's a Saturday program. It's 8 weeks on Saturday.
Okay.
So that's when school.
All day Saturday.
Yeah, all day Saturday.
Okay. Okay. And so therefore, I'll rephrase my question. So how many people do you anticipate involving in the program over this subsequent 12 months?
Well, for the past 12 months,
Okay.
we've actually had 659, a grand total of 659 in the program, which actually is, it's 180% increase over the fiscal year before that. We've been able to actually add sites, and it's been a great boon for us for the program. So the year before we had about 370 enrolled. This year we have 659.
Okay. Now, based on that, you're capped out at 548,000 as far as.
Actually, it's an 11% decrease in the year before because of the state reduction in funding. We were hit with an 11% reduction.
So that being the case, what's the capacity of participants that you can have?
A lot depends on which disciplines we run. When we run day camp counseling and sports officiating, we can take up to, we take 60 kids per site. We usually can increase to 70 or 75 depending on if it's really a highlighted area. If we do more day camp counseling and sports officiating, what we're trying to do, we take more kids. If we do something that's a little more segmented, like a crime scene investigation, which is something that just gets them interested in science, loosely based on the CSI, we only take 25 to 30 kids per session. So what we've been trying to do is leverage the larger sessions to get more kids involved. And so what we have to look at is actually sites available and also our staffing. I mean, a lot of our staff are college students, and if you know college students, you have some that are graduating. We have a large of 2 or 3 that are graduating this year. They're our lead staff, so we're training new staff. And if we have staff available, we will try to leverage the larger class session. So rough estimate, probably 500 plus kids we think we can do next year, even with that.
Now, what's the average number of hours that the kids work when you say a kid participates?
It's 8-hour day for 8 weeks, so it's 64 hours of training. And with that, there are other elements. They get life skills training. We take them on trips. Part of the money and
So
part
you
of
incorporate them, once you have them as a captive audience, you
Exactly.
incorporate
Yes.
them in other things.
CPR, first aid, the whole.
our first aid. We're trying to connect them now with work source centers. We're doing a little bit of everything. It's kind of an introductory to get these kids thinking about jobs and thinking about job training and thinking about the future. It's not an internship program where when you finish you're going to walk into a job, you're going to be able to go out and get a job, but for a 14, 15, 16-year-old, it's that introductory to start thinking about. You need to think about career paths, you need to think about leadership, you need to think about what you're going to do after high school. We
So-
talk about college prep, we talk about a little bit of everything in there.
So you base your service to these individuals based on geographic area, it's not based on income?
We move
There's
it,
no
we
income
try to use our
requirement?
class park sites throughout the city, and what we try to do is move to different sites throughout the city so everyone will get an opportunity to be a part of the program. We were last session, we're just finishing now, we're in the Valley, and we're in, I'm sorry, I just drew a blank.
Delano is the valley, South Park
Yeah.
in South LA, and Sun Valley.
And then the summer we're going to go to one site in the Valley, we'll be in Central LA, and then we'll be in Southwest LA. So we try to move it around.
So the host sites are low-income facilities, and then we market all around that neighborhood.
Okay, if you can provide this committee with the list of the sites, and also the list of sites year-round, and the list of the sites that are going to be incorporated this summer.
We can do that.
So please delineate the difference. Now, is the Recreation Parks, do you represent yourself at the JJCPA Coordinating Council meeting?
Yes. That's part of the MOU, that we actually participate, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So you participate as far as listening, because you're not a voting member?
We're not voting members, we do presentations, and as do the other groups, to inspire and kind of share ideas on what's working. So we did a presentation at the last meeting a few weeks ago, and they, new crime trends, new ways to analyze data and evaluate methods. So they try and raise the level of
And the
the agencies.
cross-market with the CBOs, other city and county agencies. That's
How often do you go? How often are these meetings?
Quarterly,
Quarterly?
quarterly,
Once every 3 months?
yeah.
So when was the last meeting?
May
last Thursday.
15th,
Was
yeah.
it last Thursday? You went.
Oh, May
I went.
You went.
I went.
It was last Thursday.
Last Thursday? Okay. And when's the next meeting?
I wasn't, the date probably September?
They
Yeah.
will email it out in middle of summer.
Yeah.
Okay. Please notify my office of when you get notified of that meeting.
Okay, we'll forward it.
Not beforehand. When you get notified,
Okay.
let me know.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want you to call them and ask them ahead of time. I want to find out when they've notified you as a participant, and then I will know.
Right.
Okay. So how's this program different from Class Parks?
Class Parks is the essential community-based, it's kind of the home of the 11 to 15-year-old. And that's really the after-school component, is that we're there in the afternoons for the kids to drop in, to have that mentor, to go on trips. So this is the outgrowth. This is that little bit older. This is aimed at 14 to 18-year-olds who are ready to move on. So the Class Parks, do you want to?
This is part of the Class Parks program,
Yeah.
basically. It's run by our staff. It's an arm to Class Parks, but we look at it as run through our administration. It's not run at one specific site. We work with those 47 sites throughout the city to make sure we can get kids involved in it. And like Ann said, it's that older set of kids once you leave that 11 to 15-year-old age. So it's an offshoot of Class Parks.
Okay. How many of these sites are going to be in the gang reduction zones? Have you identified that yet?
For the summer,
Is it 5 of the 8?
well, you mean there are 5 Class Park sites in the reduction zone. The
No, it's-
program, huh?
Oh, the late-night program. I'm
No, as
sorry,
far as-
mixing it.
Oh, just the reduction zones as a whole?
Yes.
Or, right now, we actually haven't looked at that. Our summer sites are going to be Van Nuys, which is not a site in the zone.
Well,
I'm
when you,
sorry.
when you give us the
Oh,
list,
Jim Gilliam will be one. Right
when
now,
you give us the list, go
we'll
ahead
identify it.
and
For the summer, there is one site in Baldwin Village, for sure.
Just to clarify, you want...
highlight those particular parts that
were in-
are within the zone. Yes.
So of the 47 Class Parks, which are in the zones, or of the youth internship program, which are in the zone? Okay,
Both. I want to see how much impact you're having within those zones. Okay.
that was one of the key reasons we chose Jim Gilliam, because to bring all those resources to bear, so...
Okay. All right. Okay, so you'll give us that list?
Yes.
All right, and then with the highlighted for the gang reduction zones. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
And at this time, no.
Thank you for writing the bill.
Yeah, well, I wish they'd implement it the way I wrote it. Anybody else here to speak on item number 5? We have Mr. Jose Carmona.
I'm Jose Carmona. I'm an educator. And to let you know, Mr. Cardenas, that I will be retiring, and that's a letter right there, real soon. This is the last month that I'll be going on, and I'll be working outside to educate the community on what can be done within the schools to work about gang violence. Okay, so that's one thing. Then the other one that I have there is a refinement of what I gave you the last time I met with you. Kind of refined it a little bit more, so it's better information. That's all I get. Okay, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask for clarification, and this, and then a comment on a problem with the gang stuff. On the Cardenas shift that you put together, state funds, can the schools get in and get that money? I mean, as an entity itself, can they apply for that?
Yes.
Okay. The other one, the question is, as far as the gang reduction zones, I just kind of wondered all the time why Roosevelt High School, for instance, is not in the East LA gang zone, and why and the Cypress Park, why Franklin isn't in the gang reduction zone. This kind of makes it very difficult to really get in and work with those kids that are in there. I just kind of wondered about that and see how we can eventually get to that. As much as I'm concerned about the education and working within the schools, as you well know, I think we can do a lot more in the schools than we have been doing. My other thing is that I found out that the Youth League program, which I was in charge of for a long time, I found out that the schools do, from the very top, have what they call discretionary funds. This is for your information, that total up for violence prevention, that total up to $8 million. And I wanted you to know that so that you could understand that maybe eventually the schools should be working together with the city, because without that, it's going to be very difficult to actually attack the problem.
Yeah, I previously asked the previous superintendent, to assist in compensating our human relations department.
Right.
They do a lot of work with the schools,
right.
And they came back zeros. That $8 million or their multi-billion-dollar budget apparently doesn't have funds for that kind of cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
And to compensate for that assistance.
Precisely why I'm out there organizing the community to put pressures on the schools to address this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Maggie Godoy.
Good morning. Gosh, this is the first time I've been here to this meeting in front of you, so I'm going to try my best. The passion for working for these kids brought me here. I worked for Chief Cardenas for 5 years, and I think that's a great program, but I felt like the probation department wanted to control the whole money.
I know how you feel.
And not only that, but I don't think we didn't have good monitors to make them accountable for the work that the gang intervention workers were doing, and that's why we're still losing a lot of lives. And I live in the Highland Park area, and I don't think Franklin is being impacted by none of the programs, and we have a lot of gang violence in there. And a lot of drug dealing and drug sellings and stuff like that. I don't try to work against that, but I do believe I'm breaking the cycles and working with kids that need the help. I just got fired by Hathaway Sycamore's Family Resource Center because I was organizing parents, because in Burbank Middle School, they are, recruiting gangs and selling drugs, using drugs, and all this taking place in that school. I don't care, I will get fired again, because I believe there is hope for those kids. I believe in your program, Cardenas, very, very hard. I have this pen that I save with me because I believe in your program. I really believe in that program. I just want people to be accountable for the kind of work that we do out there with those kids. We are touching lives. We are doing the dirty work. And right now, I'm doing it volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And this is actually a commemorative pin on the Schiff Cardenas CPA
Yes.
2000 conference.
Yes, yes, I was there.
I appreciate you sharing your experiences and sounds like some frustrations with the process of the Schiff Cardenas funding and what actually happens on the streets or doesn't happen on the streets. It should be happening. But I share in your understanding that the LA County Probation seems to want to control this funding. I've come to that conclusion. Unfortunately, I'm no longer a legislator anymore. So if I were still a legislator, knowing what I know now about how the money is being implemented, I would continue to fund it. I would just tighten up the language to make sure that the funding goes directly to the organizations that need to have it. And I would also make sure that I would tighten up the language and require that the funding be proportionally let out to the various cities and communities throughout each county. Therefore, probably upsetting probation, the DA's office, and the sheriff's office, which is fine by me, because the irony of it is they're getting the lion's share of the Schiff Cardenas money, yet they have the biggest budgets to contend with before even vying for this money. So it seems very contrary to logic and being able to do good works on the street by giving the biggest fortified entities in the local communities additional money to do what they're already funded to do. I mean, granted, if they get more money, hopefully they do more good work with it.
Yeah.
But and then to see a department that gets $1 billion or whatever, or $500 million or whatever LA County Probation's budget is, I would imagine it's at least $500 million, to give them an additional 200,000 here, 600,000 there, 1 million here, 1 million there, in order for them to do more work with they already have $500 million to do work with, and then to have a not-for-profit that sits there and says, with $50,000, I could continue to do more good work that's needed, yet you don't even give me $50,000.
That's right.
In my opinion, that amount of money with departments that large, it's too easy for the money to get lost in the shuffle. And being that they seem to be accountable to themselves, then where's the accountability for them? Is the money being utilized? And that's one of the reasons why I need to encourage the departments to report to me and let me know truthfully what they see going on and what their interaction is with the JJCPA, what their interaction with probation is, or what have you. I don't need them to say anything bad about them. I can read between the lines so that I can figure out what my next steps are going to be to get this funding back in line the way it was intended. But even as frustrated as I am, I would never say no funding for Schiff Cardenas. I would never say that, because there is some good that's happening with it. It's unfortunately not being put, the lion's share of it is not being put in the places that it needs to be put.
Absolutely. Okay.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, those are the public comment cards that I have before me on item number 5. Is there anybody else here to speak on item number 5? Seeing and hearing no more public comment on item number 5. Public comment on item number 5 is now closed. With that, it'll be the recommendation of the chair of this committee to approve the CAO report. Therefore, that completes the items on our agenda. Now we move to general public comment. Is anybody here for general public comment? Seeing and hearing none. General public comment is now closed. With that, this committee is now adjourned.